Thanks for waiting.
No problem.
I did trip on my way in there, and I was wondering if I had fallen,
And
how long would you
died.
have stayed on the microphone and died? Like, how long would do you think you would wait? A good long time, I bet.
I would probably wait a few minutes, but I not too long because I can hear you. And so if you had fallen and passed out and I wasn't hearing anything, I'd probably text you. And then when I didn't get a reply, I would call you. And then when I didn't get an answer, I would dial 911 in the Boston area.
Because it'd be embarrassing if you dialed the wrong 911.
Right.
And some Tim Blevins who had not fallen was being assisted.
Exactly.
Hey everyone ever, and welcome to 20th Century Pop, the show where we try to understand the present while living in the past. My name is Tim Blevins.
And I am Bob Canning. And Tim, how are you, sir?
I'm okay. I didn't know if that was too fast.
I thought that was good.
Yeah?
Not hot at all.
It wasn't hot. It wasn't hot on the mic. And it's not hot in this apartment because right now we're in the middle of a cold snap of upwards of 9 degrees, and I'm really feeling that.
Yikes.
And talking about it, even though we just talked about it, I'm also talking about it as part of the show because I don't know when the music that plays is going to end.
It's about to cut out right now.
Okay.
Well,
I
it
think
went.
maybe we should too. I hope you're right because I don't want to have to line that up. But I'm doing all right.
Excellent.
And yourself, you said?
Doing well. And I've enjoyed this past week listening to our topic today. It's an album I haven't listened to in a while.
Which I guess we're getting right into.
Isn't that what we're supposed to do?
I don't know. I sometimes look at the show notes. I'm like, 4 minutes seems to be the going rate before the topic comes up. Only because I was listening today to a podcast and I was realizing more and more podcasts do have a full 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 15 minutes of the host making their life seem like it matters.
Got it.
Maybe whining a little bit or complaining about being sick all the time. And I realized, well, we do that too, I guess. And maybe that's the natural progression of podcasts, or maybe that's just... If I was to think about it, maybe I do it, you don't, because you're not a narcissistic prick, I guess, the way that sometimes I feel like I am when I look at my Instagram feed or anything that I do online for attention.
Yeah, maybe that's it. Maybe I feel like because we do such pre-show prattle that doesn't get into the episode.
But it is in the show notes as a wording. We're really pushing the show notes this episode. Check them out, everybody. They tell you what you're listening to as you listen to it.
They're very informative. They get you where you're going.
They tell you where you're at. We do talk a lot before the show. Is that what you're saying? So now we don't have to.
That's partially where my mind goes. Yeah.
Okay. Well, you're not narcissistic. I think that's great.
Oh, thanks.
And I say that to force a segue, saying I think what we're talking about today plays into something. I don't know if it's narcissism, but it definitely plays into something that I'm probably should just save till it comes up, so it makes sense.
No, I think I know where you're going because I'm not narcissistic. I don't think I am, but I do feel like I'm more of the themes of this album.
You do?
Oh, yeah.
And so the listeners, we are apparently talking about an album today, although when we say album, for me at least, it means compact disc. I had this on compact disc.
As did and do I.
As did and do you. And yeah, that's right. We're doing a segment called Compact Discussion today, where we take an album that we were listening to in the 80s or 90s, and we're going to basically go through it track by track. So hopefully it's an album you enjoy. Otherwise, that's going to get redundant. But Bob, what is the album we're talking about, and maybe a little bit why?
Yeah, we're gonna talk about Green Day's Dookie, which is in fact their third album, as I understand it. I, for the longest time, thought it was, well, not for the longest time, but initially thought it was their debut, but it's their third album, Dookie.
It's their debut on that label, I think. Whatever label is
that's
released,
true.
I think it's their major
label debut. We can go with that. And we're talking about it because it came out 25 years ago.
It did, actually.
February 1st, 1994.
I wish we had timed this a little better because I think this will be up in January, a week before that. But that's true. And I guess you answered how I was going to start this whole thing. Like, you weren't aware of Green Day prior to this album, were you?
No, I was not. This was my intro to Green Day.
And where was it? Where did you first hear it or realize they were a thing?
Well, it was at college. So 94 would have been the second half of my freshman year, and I can't quite remember. I can't pinpoint this. I have a very distinct memory of being home in the summer, and I'm not sure if it was after my freshman year or after my sophomore year. No, it had to be after my freshman year.
Yeah,
so
we had this sophomore year. We had this going into 94, both of us.
Yeah. But I'm saying my memory this summer, I was in a car with my girlfriend at the time, her good friend, and I think it was her boyfriend. Now, my girlfriend's friend and her boyfriend, I knew them kind of peripherally in high school. They were kind of, they smoked. And if you smoke, you're not, hanging out with me because I wasn't really into those kids that smoked. I didn't hang out with them because they generally
I smoked
also
through most of our friendship.
Well, no. I'm talking in high school.
High school,
Clean
okay.
Bob of high school. But
so you're
also,
saying these were a different clique of kids?
different clique.
for
They
high
were
school,
kind of they were the smokers. They were the jean jacket wearers. They were the punks.
Jaguar wearing, like Ravage, but
totally.
made of denim.
They were, before I knew what punk was, I guess they were the punks of the school. So I didn't really hang with them, but my girlfriend was friends with, had a friend who was dating one of them or was very close to one of them. And so I remember being in a car driving around, and I can't remember what song it was, but a Green Day song came on the radio. And they were like, oh, that's that new band. They were talking about it. And I had already known who it was. And so that was kind of a cool moment for me that I kind of kept to myself. But that's a memory that will stick with me, is that these are the cool kids, so to speak, that knew punk bands and were into that music that I was afraid of at the time, basically. And here I was now coming home from college. I already knew about this band and they didn't. And it was kind of a cool moment for me.
And did you like them yet? Did you like this band at this point?
Yeah, I liked them right away. Like, I liked the singles that I was hearing right away, and I got the album pretty soon thereafter.
Now you're saying punk. You're calling it punk music. It's a term you're doing. And just based on the story you just told and coming out of high school, was punk something as a genre? Like, what did that mean to you at that point? What was punk music? Because it's a term that's been used since the 70s.
Yeah.
It's thrown around multiple times. What did punk music mean to you in, I guess this would be 1994?
Yeah, well, in 1994, I think it probably still meant to me kind of this scary, piercing, having... No, I'm serious. I was not bright. Just the scary kind of music. This punk was
also established
dangerous.
For listeners if they don't know, you're
drugs.
growing up in a small town.
Yeah.
You're growing up in Oneida, New York. So
I don't need to establish this. All of our listeners know where I've come from, right? Don't they?
I do, and I'm a high percentage of the listeners. You're right.
No,
I'm
but
just
yeah,
saying because
no,
I think
I
it's
was
important
very-
to put that into perspective if
Yeah.
someone doesn't know.
I'll remind people that in high school, my favorite bands were Huey Lewis and the News and Harry Connick Jr. So that should say something about my knowledge of punk at that time. And so getting into college and hearing Green Day, and it was, to me, very accessible punk. Not that it would be classified by other punks as punk, perhaps, but, that's how I saw it. How did you see it?
I think punk as a word, again, I think when it happened in the 70s, it was this fashion, it was this jagged anger, it was a rebellion.
Mm-hmm.
And so as a kind of music, it was new, but it's also punk musicians of the time, depending on who you looked at. You might be talking Ramones, you might be talking Television, you might be talking Patti Smith. Depending on who you're talking, they have their own inspirations of what they listen to that filter in. So I think as punk continued as a genre, just something that existed, I don't know exactly what it was in the 80s, but punk in the 90s was kind of these short songs, fast bursts of music.
Yeah.
scrawny kids, making loud music on independent labels. I mean, that was punk to me, and I liked the idea of punk. I liked the concept of punk. I knew the Ramones. I don't know who else I knew at that point, but so when this came along, when Green Day came along, I don't think I must have heard them on the radio because I knew who they were, but I really knew them going into sophomore year. And the reason I think I got this album was I knew them because of a sort of infamous free concert that they performed. September 9th, 1994. So this album had been out for a few months, had a couple singles probably. They performed a free concert in Boston on something called the Esplanade, which is this nice place for concerts, outdoor area right by the Charles River. It's where people go to watch the fireworks.
Exactly.
It's where the Boston Pops plays. It's this beautiful area. They do a nice thing of free concerts. And right before I came back to college, Green Day was booked as one of the acts. I think they were the second act of the night.
So wait, you weren't back at school?
No, I wasn't there. I wasn't at the show either. That's the thing. Yeah. A friend of mine went, but no, this was before we would have been back to school.
I was there. I was in Boston.
Oh, really?
That night, I did not go to it.
Oh,
but I was there because I was on the orientation staff.
Okay, so you were right there.
I was there ahead of time, getting things ready, and I found out about it the next day because. The Esplanade and the Hatch Shell where they performed, as you know, Tim, our dorm 100 Beacon overlooks that area. And so I heard from a lot of people from living in 100 Beacon who had listened to the concert and watched the whole riot unfold.
Well, that's the thing. It was 20 minutes into their set, they were shut down by this violent riot. People throwing bottles, people shouting. It was like 65,000 people was the number I saw. And there were police barricades. Cops came in and they basically had to evacuate the Esplanade and get everybody out of there.
Yeah.
And because it was a band I knew the name of, because it was an area I knew, the Esplanade, like you're saying, right by campus. I mean, I think that concept of an experience and that concept of a little rickety punk band hit me, I think, then the way like the Sex Pistols hit in the 70s, this idea of this whole persona blowing through the music, the people playing the music, the fans, and tearing and trashing the place up. I mean, that, to me, Green Day was a real punk band because they ripped up an area I knew and they couldn't get more than 20 minutes into their set. So that I think by the time I returned to college, which would have been a week after that maybe, or 2 weeks after that, if I hadn't already, I think that's when I purchased a copy of Dookie, the album we're talking about today, because in my mind, it was kind of like, this is punk. This was new to me. And it's silly to look at Green Day now.
I was so pissed at myself for not having thought to go to that concert. Having heard after the fact what happened, I was like, why the hell didn't I go to that? And I'll tell you why, because I actually hadn't known that they were performing. I didn't know that it was happening until after. But then I was pissed that I didn't know. I wish I had paid more attention and figured that out.
It set up for me this idea that this was a dangerous band.
Sure.
And to top that off, I also liked the sound of the band. And this is early to mid 90s. This is coming off of and out of grunge. I think when Nirvana hit a few years before that, Nirvana was this dangerous band. I think Nirvana changed a lot of people's lives and perceptions of music. It didn't hit me that way. I kind of was into the music that came out of that, Pearl Jam and other. That's the only one I can think of right now. But the grunge movement after that was what I knew. I didn't know the big explosion of Nirvana the way other people did. But this, I felt like I was kind of there for it. I got the album, and to get the album, I know there was probably one or two radio singles, but to get the album, to put it on, what's the first track on this? What's the first track on Dookie?
It opens with a song called Burnout.
Yeah. And right off the bat with that start, even then, my impression was this band is British. Which, because I think, what's Billy Joe Armstrong's voice, he has a weird British snarl, and that, I think, because I thought that's where punk, with the Sex Pistols and stuff came from, that was appealing to me. That had already a snotty sound to it.
It was appealing that it was British to your
I
knowledge?
think so, yeah. Yeah, because it was a different sounding voice, and it fit that kind of fast dirge music.
So you didn't know that they were not British?
I don't know if I was thinking about it. I guess I didn't. I guess I didn't know who they were, really. I didn't know where they were from. I hadn't really pieced it together because they look like fans of 70s punk albums. They look like how if I was to dress myself as a punk, I would dress like them. I mean, they fit that, so I thought they could very well be British. But there's something about that made it seem like, oh yeah, of course, they're going to be little snotty punks, and I can like this. And so as the song hit, I mean, it's the lyrics that I could make out were things like "shit town life," "I'm not growing up, I'm just standing down," and those lyrics. I mean, the music is driving; it's got a nice rhythm to it. But those kind of lyrics, that right at the start, that opening is that was a call to attention for 18-year-old me. That got my attention immediately because it was words that were kind of aware of this idea of a stalled out life. Of life kind of stumbling, stopping, being pointless, which hit me because it sounded very eloquent the way they were phrasing it, because they were British, which, in my mind. But also just that, I think that's what I was listening for. That, we've talked in the past about the Replacements, and that's something I found in them too. This was a band that was acknowledging a little bit of nihilistic sort of just defeat already at age, 20? I was 18, they were probably 22. So that gets me right off the bat. That drew me in that this probably would matter. And
it gets you kind of like it got me, just with a couple phrases. Because you can't really, if you're not reading along with the lyric sheet, you don't always, especially when we were first hearing it, you don't always know what's being said. You just know it's in a foreign language, British, and that those key phrases will pop out and those key words that just hit you as, that's where I am.
So were you relating to that? Was this kind of a mindset for you?
It was interesting. I kind of felt like it was, a little apathy here, a little bit of confusion. They sing about confusion on almost every song, it seems, and just not sure what you're doing with your life or why you're even there. And so, and again, it was like key phrases and words. I don't know that I always got every full song from Green Day's Dookie. This week I did. I made sure to go back and make sure I was listening to everything. So, and I found it even better this week.
Oh, you did? So you like this more now?
I like this album just as much as I did then. Maybe a little more. It's fantastic. I love this album.
It's a pretty seamless album in that sense. I mean, I think if we go right into the next track, Having a Blast, I mean, that it could very well be, and this isn't a knock, it could be the same songs.
Oh, yeah.
They're short enough. Because like with this one, it was sort of like I heard the "no one is getting out alive, to me it's nothing," kind of the droning ideas of that. Once again, it was catchy, and it was cynical, and it was the defeated. I mean, these fucking songs already, this was my 90s rebellion, that whole whatever mentality that was kind of the 90s. I think you said Apathy. Did I hear you say that?
I did.
Yeah. I mean, that is a big part of, I guess, what Generation X or whatever we were in the 90s. That's a generalization, but that's there. And these songs were touching on that. Like you said, I didn't know all the lyrics, but it was enough to get that something in these songs felt, I don't want to say like an anthem, but they felt very connected to where I was at, and very much these were people writing from my perspective, I felt like. What do you think of Having a Blast, the second track?
I agree with you. I find it funny. Well, I don't know if funny is the right word, but I always find it interesting when the songs are driving, poppy, energetic, fun, musically, and then lyrically they're just dark and sad and broken. And Having a Blast, as much as I knew the ending lyrics, to me it's nothing, to me it's nothing, to me it's nothing, over and over again, I never really realized what the song was about until this week. in that it's basically a murder-suicide type of thing. Having a blast is about actually blowing yourself and those around you up. And did you not know?
I didn't know that.
That's how I'm interpreting lines like, I'm taking all you down with me, explosives duct taped to my spine, nothing's going to change my mind. That's how I interpreted.
Yeah, I guess that's pretty direct.
The opening
Wow.
lyrics of Having a Blast.
Huh.
But
like you said, not hearing all the lyrics, I didn't grab that.
Yeah, but like musically, like I'm just rocking. It's like I'm tapping my feet, I'm bobbing my head. This is like a good time, except life sucks so much that I'm going to kill myself and take you with me.
Now, did you know those lyrics at the time, do you think? Did you know you were listening to that at 19? Would that have been relevant to you?
I probably, at the time, would hear the refrain, no one's getting out alive. I kind of would always interpret that as, relationships. And it's like, well, this isn't going to work for us. Neither of us are going to be happy in a relationship. So musically, I would often take whatever I heard and, interpret it in, well, how does this relate to a boy, girl, man, woman, woman relationship? And that's probably what I thought at the time.
So already 2 songs in, we're missing some of this album.
Yeah.
As 19-year-old fans, we're not getting, or maybe not at the point that, again, it's done with humor. I think it's a humorous take. That is kind of funny, Having a Blast, but
yes, with the title, yes,
it represents a better understanding of nihilism than how I would have been saying it at the time. Because that is, wow, okay, I guess I didn't get that.
But it's hard to get that because the music is so, I don't want to necessarily say upbeat, although it kind of is, but it's just so thriving and energetic, and it would be sort of the thing I would want to listen to if we were going to be going out or something later that night. I'd put this album on because the musicality of it would psych me up.
Moving on to the next, Chump is the third track. I never really listened to this one, to be honest. I didn't recognize it. But it's a 15-track album, so that's fine.
Yeah, no. This is one. Again, I really played this album a lot. When I was making mixtapes, songs off of this would always find it onto a mixtape, whether it was for someone else or for me. And if I was putting a song from this, I generally would pick something that wasn't one of the singles, which I think is something you do as well.
Sure.
And Chump was often picked. I like the song.
Now, why do you like it then? Because, again, it didn't stick with me. I like it, but I didn't remember it.
Trying to put this into words, because that's our job on this podcast.
Well, it's the main feature we're working with.
Right.
Yeah.
Musically, I loved it. It just, again, was another driving song. But I like the idea. Well, not like, but I relate to the idea of it's somebody else's fault. And this is probably a fault of my own that I relate to that, but it's like, it's a song about some unknown entity being the cause of all of my problems or this guy's problems in the song. And I could relate to that because it's like, as much as you try to do something, somebody else is doing it better or somebody else keeps you from doing your thing. And that just bugs me. And that's, I think, why I connected with the song then. And continue to connect to it today.
Now, were you getting that at the time from other bands, other music, that sensation of sort of, because that's a little bit of you're glorifying your own position, victimizing yourself, which is something you do as a teenager. It's someone else. It's not me, if I'm hearing you right. Was there other music that also supported and fed that you would have been listening to at the time?
I don't know if there was supporting that particular specific thing, but with all music, you find something that you're going to relate to.
Oh, no, of course you do. I'm just wondering, we're both very entwined into liking this album already. I'm just wondering when it came along at that time, was this just a new kind of experience to be hearing this kind of sentiment, to be relating to a musician? In 19, so they're only a couple years older than we are.
Yeah, to go back again to what I was listening to in high school, Huey Lewis and the News wasn't singing about angst. Harry Connick Jr. was all about romance. And so as much as I felt like I could relate to some of the things those guys were singing about, I didn't have a band that I could enjoy listening to, but then also relate to the lyrics and some of the topics and themes they're singing about. And so, yeah, this was like, oh, hey, it's so there's music out there that talks to the pain and some of the suffering I feel like I have in my life.
Talks to your age. I mean,
Yeah.
I've heard you say before, Huey Lewis and Harry Connick, I think those are the people you wanted to be. Am I right on that? It was kind of like they're fun guys, romantic guys, you just said.
Yeah.
Someone to aspire to, like me growing up wanting to be Richard Lewis and then these older people. But to the importance, I think, and it's odd to maybe not hear. Well, I guess it's not odd because when you're a teenager, unless you're getting deep meaning, and you can, by the way, out of Debbie Gibson or Tiffany, there aren't musicians in your age bracket necessarily singing about what you're in the midst of. They're singing about things that you're striving for. Same with movies and comics. We were at an age at 18 or 19 when this is hitting. They're just a couple years older, so there is this point of reference. So to hear some music playing in the now, this was a new album, and to hear some musicians singing on that album about things that struck exactly where you were, I mean, it sounds like that was a new experience for you.
Yeah, it really was. And one that I kind of threw myself in. Like I said, I played this album all the time. And it was an introduction to other musicians and other bands, and other forms of music that really started to grow for me and open me up. It's hard to talk about it now as something being new because now it's stuff I've listened to for years and years and years. So it's hard to remember that feeling. But yeah, it was definitely different than what had come before for me.
And it was, and maybe other ones were like this for you too, but for me, I mean, it was a full album. I mean, this song, Chump, you can hear it if you know to listen for it. It has hints of the next song in it, Longview, which is the next track. It kind of leads right into that with some of the same bass lines. I don't know if that's something albums do as much anymore just because of how we listen to music, but you know, this idea of songs interconnected as an album, that this is the order you need to listen to them. This is the way you listen to them. This whole first side kind of plays through that in a way, thematically, and some of the music being connected. And I wonder if that's, again, and there was other music like that. Every Led Zeppelin album was like that, you know, and stuff I listened to was like that. But that does make for a continual listening experience when you're putting in a disc and letting it just play through, that I think that takes you from song to song. Because getting into Longview, I mean, I think this was the first single off the album, right?
Yes.
Track 4.
Yeah.
And based on this song alone, like if I had just heard this on the radio and that was it, I don't think I would have cared for the band. Like this is a weird one to have be their first single taken off of the album. It's fine. It's a fine song, but it's not really what I would have been looking for in a song. It's not the best representation of them, and it's just kind of. It's got some nice lyrics to sit around and watch the tube, but nothing's on. I mean, that was me at that time. But and the drums are great. But this particular song it's weird. Some of the songs they picked as their singles are not the ones I listen to. Do you like Longview? Do you go to that song?
You know what? I probably don't go to it as often as some of the others here. I do like it, but
it's not what got you to get this album.
No, I don't think it was. Yeah, it's maybe because it's maybe more of a universal type of lyric there. It's not as not as dark as perhaps, you know, like Having a Blast and some of the other things on the album. And so maybe that's why that choice was made.
Does it feel insincere topic wise?
No, I don't think so. I think it's not as deep and maybe not as deeply personal as some of the other songs. And so maybe it has a bit of just sort of these generic type of lyrics to it. But I still think it has relatable aspects that we've been talking about.
I do too. I just think because, you were just saying it's hard to exactly think about how this album hit knowing it's so big. This song doesn't make me think this band's a big deal. This song would not get like I said, would not get my attention on the radio. And yet it's what this band thought was the best representation of this album that hits deep. I mean, and again, it's not a bad song. It's just, it would have been, I would have forgotten it if it wasn't for the fact that it was a radio single. The same with the next song, the track 5, Welcome to Paradise, which was another single. It's one of my least favorite songs on the album. It's still good, but again, because they all share this DNA, so they sound similar. But I mean, this one, I guess, feels more than Longview, feels a little forced. Do you like Welcome to Paradise?
Yeah, I like Welcome to Paradise.
Why is that? Do you find something in that that's maybe not there in Longview?
Well, I mean, no, I don't know. Again, it's a safer song in a way, because it's basically just talking about, going out on your own. Here's where I live now. It's not the best place. Some people will call it shitty. Some will call it nice. Welcome to Paradise. But so it's pretty basic. But
Is
it's
that
just
the lyric? Some people call it shitty. Some will call it nice.
Yeah, I don't know if they say shitty. But I'm looking at the lyric sheets. Let me find the exact line.
I don't know, that's okay. I'm trusting you. I was just like, again, I don't know the lyrics to all these songs.
Some call it the slums. Some call it nice. So not shitty, but the slums. And I didn't relate to it at the time because I wasn't necessarily out on my own for the first time, and I was living on campus and in Boston, and so it was nice. It wasn't like I had, after college when we were living in apartments together, and maybe the heat didn't work and the cupboards were cracked, and it was kind of a shitty place, but it was our place, so it was paradise. So I probably would have, if I had been listening to it more then, would have related to it more. But certainly, like, again, it's the music, it's the chords, it's the rock and roll, man. I really enjoyed that part of it.
And again, it is a good song. It's just the music and the rock and roll is fun and definitely different than what I was listening to different enough, but not touching my soul,
right.
Just touching my rhythms or whatever.
It's just talking about where you live now.
I guess so. And it's almost like a 3 in a row, because then track 6, Pulling Teeth, this one is also kind of forgettable.
Oh yeah, I liked it more at the time. I liked the sort of unexpected role reversal in an abusive relationship.
Oh, I thought it was about a nurse. It's not, is it?
Maybe it is.
He's not busted up.
Maybe I did it wrong.
Is he busted up from a physically abusive relationship?
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Really?
Yeah.
God, I'm missing. Because there's no way I could have related to that at 18.
Well,
so I was...
the part that kind of did it for me is the line where he's like, where is it? Basically he's saying, just make sure I tell her I love her. Just keep saying, my love is true. That line, as long as, so that's why I thought it was not necessarily healthcare related.
I mean, in Canada, they'd be all set, but here in the States, no, not healthcare related.
And
wow,
Tim,
I'm missing all of this.
Well, just to bring the point home on that song, I actually am looking at the lyrics in the CD liner. It's all comic art inside around the lyrics, and there is a picture of a woman angrily punching a man who has bandages around his head and X's in his eyes. So I'm pretty sure that's what it's about.
Now, is it a funny song then, or is it? I mean,
what do you do with this? At the time, I kind of thought it was a humorous take on that, but I was a dumb kid. Re-listening to it now, it's just a serious type of song. Like, I don't think there's really no jokes in it. It's really just from the point of view of a man in an abusive relationship as opposed to the woman. And it's all the same things that would happen to a female. It's happening to him.
But there is a joke in it, because there's a tone to it.
I don't think so now.
It's called Pulling Teeth. We know what that means as a saying. That's rough.
Mm.
And I think, and again, I don't think it's bad. I just, as a kid, I mean, this song makes me think it made me think, oh, is this Weezer? I briefly thought, this sounds not like them to me.
Okay.
And I thought the I'm All Busted Up was just another, like, I'm all troubled inside and hurt and bandage all my emotional wounds. But this is about physical abuse. And I guess we talk about punk, the idea of punk. We talk about Nirvana, the idea of Nirvana. I guess I would gravitate towards the safer things because that's what my life knew. I had the emotional distress, but I didn't have the physical threats that maybe comes through in a lot of these songs. So yeah, I did not see that. Does it make it hard to enjoy the album knowing that? Or the song?
Makes it a little harder to enjoy the song for me.
Because you're older then.
Because I'm older. Yeah, for sure. It's still, I don't think I'd skip it and I didn't as I'm listening to the album, and I listened to it a few times. It's not like I skipped over it or anything. But yeah, I probably would. It wouldn't be the song I picked to put on a mix for a friend.
But it's not a social activism. It's not a piece of social activism. They're not. It's not Jeremy off of 10, where it's like, this is about violence in school and this is an important song about issues. This is still a catchy little, here's our drums punk song.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure that they'd be fine. I don't know if they intended, but you could take a message away from it that abuse happens in all forms to all people. In relationships. So there's that, but they don't drive that home. It's really just a very straightforward kind of first person telling of, here's this relationship I'm in. Accidents will happen, but this is getting pretty shitty. I just have to, is she okay? Is she disturbed? Is she ultra violent? I just got to keep telling her I love her and maybe it'll get better. Just straightforward. And then you take from that what you will.
Which is fine. You write a song about that. It's just, it's interesting because I can't, and still can't, and thankfully can't relate to that for something that I think is such a personal album, and we're about to see how this is about me. Wow, this is a stumbler for me. And not in a knocking way. I'm just like, this is out of theme. This is like when Aerosmith puts Janie's Got a Gun in the middle of their song about 40-year-olds jerking off the high school kids. This is weird.
Yeah, it definitely stood out.
To be fair, that actually follows a song about drug addiction, which follows 3 songs about 40-year-olds jerking off about high school kids.
Thank you for being fair, Tim.
To Aerosmith, to be fair, on Pump. 1989's Pump.
Is that the one where the car is humping the other car?
It would have to be because it's called Pump.
Right. But it's
Get a
not
Grip is the one where the cow got
nipple.
pierced and has it. Yeah,
okay.
That's Get a Grip. And then I believe that was followed up with 9 Lives, which I think is actually, it was followed up by a compilation called Big Ones, which was Greatest Hits and not Testicles. Yeah. But this is not an Aerosmith episode, thankfully. This is, and I only say that because to get back to this, talking about pulling teeth being out of maybe something I could relate to. The track after that, track 7, which I think if it was a cassette, closes out the side, and track 7, it was also one of their bigger hits. Basket Case.
Basket Case, yes, sir.
Was probably my favorite song for a bit, at least off of this album.
Yeah.
It was like the perfect romanticizing of how lost I felt at that age. It had melodramatic, neurotic, paranoid, the words I loved at that age, words I wanted to do. But it also had a lyric in it where he says, sometimes I give myself the creeps. And just hearing that, where he's talking about himself, at that age, at 19, I didn't know that other people felt like that. I didn't know that the sense, self-loathing and this unease I had in my own skin. I didn't know other people had that it was relatable, that you could put that in a song and express that. So those were words and those were a feeling. That's when the British sounding voice became less British and more just became my internal voice. This was the song that I'm like, yes, I get that. I am fucking tearing myself up inside. Because I'm falling to pieces here in college. Like, that was a feeling. And this song it's a fun song, and it's a fast song, and it builds, and it's so catchy. And yet I do know that I related to every word, unless you're about to tell me that this is about some horrible animal treatment and abuse or Republican platforming. But
it's actually about Easter.
Oh God, I hate Easter. That's one of the worst things in the spring. But no, every word that I knew and could hear in this song, like lit up a little Richard the Depressed chakra in me, kind of thing. I loved at the time relating to this fucking song.
Yeah, I feel like I relate to it more now than I did then.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Because actually, I've eased off of it a little bit. Really? Why now?
Oh, I mean, to get personal, I'm going through some hard shit in my life, and I feel like maybe it's my own doing. I feel like I whine to people a lot. Not everyone, but certain people. Melodramatic, neurotic. Anxious, anxiety disorders, all this shit happening to me that I'm working through. But hearing it, listening to this album again, and hearing that, it hit me more now than it did then.
The video is in a mental hospital, correct?
Yes.
I believe they're
very
all
colorful mental hospital.
Yeah, I guess I had not been to one, I had not visited one yet, so I didn't know that at the time. But so there is, I think what you were just describing, I'm not breezing over what you were just saying. I just didn't know how much you want to talk about it. But I feel like there is definitely the unhealthy self theme in this. There's definitely a I need help theme in this, which sounds like might be what you're connecting with. It's odd because just at the time, I think I was hearing the same words you're hearing now. And I don't, a 19-year-old and a 43-year-old, they don't have the same problems. But this, at the time, this felt like an identity. This felt like owning this trouble. This felt like this is me. I'm a mess. I'm a wreck.
Yeah.
And again, that sometimes I give myself the creeps line is just, it's a simple line, but it sums up being aware of yourself, at least for me at that age. And apparently for a lot of people, it's just like, I'm this. I'm not them. I'm not, I get I wish I could be him. I wish I could be her. I wish I could be them, blah, blah, blah. The things they have, the things they do. But the whole, I have to be this feeling, which I thought was just me feeling that. Like I again, just to set it to this tune, but I don't relate to it now. I don't. No, I like it. I like it a lot, but I think we're going to find there's a song later that I still relate to on this album. But this one, I still love it, but I'm not identifying with it, but it sounds like you are.
Yeah, I feel like maybe I've always felt like I do everything a little later in life than everyone else. So I'm going through, I don't know if I want to call it a midlife crisis, because I don't know where my midlife is supposed to be, but I definitely have... you call it about a healthy self. I'm not mentally healthy. Working through it, doing my best. Talking to you is always a good thing. It's good to do. And so, yeah, like hearing this, it's like, because in college, for me anyway, I was still getting to know who I was, but I felt like, I didn't have this sort of feeling. I didn't feel like that I was that insecure and creeping myself out, like you're quoting there. Didn't feel paranoid or anything like that. I felt like there was joy, and I haven't felt the joy as much lately. I don't know if it's Trump. I don't know if it's everybody else in the world that likes Trump. I don't know if it's my family. I don't know if it's my job. I don't know if it's things I've become and things I haven't become. But I feel more broken now than I did then. So this song, upon re-listening, was kind of my first time hearing it in a way.
Listening to it for today.
Yeah.
Are there other songs right now that kind of, because I think it's what we're saying we do, with how you're feeling now and with, just the fact that it's, you're in your 40s, so you're not the kid in school finding
Yeah.
this music. Are there other songs that soundtrack your feelings right now? Are there other things you hear where you're like, okay, that's me. I can connect to that.
Yeah. There are some.
Are they artists your age?
Don't name them. Yeah, mostly they are, because that's mostly what I'm still, buying albums, album 5, 6, 7, and 8 from bands that I've listened to, since college. So they're my age. And they grow and they sing about different things. They're singing about children, and they're singing about family, and they're singing about, adult insecurities. So yeah, I definitely relate to those things.
So this is different though, then, because you're relating to kids.
I'm relating
to a song by kids, but not to you as a kid.
Yeah, but because I'm just relating to the song and the lyrics, because at some point it becomes universal. The song is just the song. It doesn't matter who sang it and how old they were when they did. And so that's what I'm relating to.
Okay. I mean, I don't know if I agree with that last statement, but it's because I think that's all part of it. I think
like I don't know how old Bob Dylan was when he sang some of his songs, and the songs just are relatable to what they are.
Do you relate to Bob Dylan's songs?
No, that was just the random name I decided
but that's
choose.
The thing. We don't.
I don't know.
I think people growing up in the 60s did, and 70s.
But that's what I'm saying. Yes, I know this band, so I know that they were younger, and I know that I was younger. But music eventually.
But you're still part of the person who you are younger now. There's still a tether that connects that.
Sure.
So these kids that you related to at the time were hitting on something that has followed you or caught up with you.
Caught up with me, I guess.
Or has just occurred in your life.
Yeah.
And I think I always feel like it matters who's writing at what age, because I don't know. And it's contradicting what you're saying or contradicting where you're at. But if Green Day came out with Basket Case now, being rich Broadway musicians, I wouldn't buy it.
No,
And I wouldn't get attached to it, but I can get attached to this because I'm like, for me, it was at the right time with these punk kids, and now listening to them, like, well, they were punk kids at the time,
right?
So I can connect to that. So I think that's important, but that's separate, I guess. What here, it's kind of like
I'm taking the song on its own. I'm hearing the song removed from who's singing it and when they sang it, and so I'm just hearing the song now.
If I know the band, I can. Well, I guess if I don't know the band, I could do it. If you're just hearing a song, you're like, who is that? You can't put a face on it.
Well, maybe it's because it's just the song's ubiquitous. It's just been with me forever, you know? And so it's just another song on the collection, so to speak. And so I'm not really, at this time anyway, connecting it to those three individuals or Billy Joe or me in college. It's just, here's the song that I'm again hearing, but I'm hearing it today, and I'm hearing it differently or freshly today. Mm-hmm. You know,
is there a comfort in hearing it, or is it more just, well, that at least this puts music to how I'm feeling, which isn't comforting. It's just melodic.
Yeah, it's just melodic. I don't know that there's any comfort right now. And I'm kind of skirting over everything because this isn't really what our podcast is about.
Okay, no, and I understand, but I think there is something in that. I would be curious, and I'm not making light of I guess I'm looking at it as an experiment. If you had never heard of Green Day and discovered Basket Case today, would it hit you the way it's hitting you now? Or does having known it, does that help?
I think having known it helps. And I say that because there's another band I've been enjoying lately. I don't know if you've heard them, Fiddler.
I just know they're musicals. They're much like Green Day.
It's spelled differently, but they're Green Day-esque. They've got a power punk thing going on.
The power punk tradition?
And they're younger. They're much younger than I am. And they're singing from their point of view. And I enjoy their music, but I don't necessarily connect to it. And they sing about similar things that this album is talking about, you know, not knowing what your life is, just hanging out, drinking beers. And as much as I enjoy the music...
Millennials aren't drinking beers, are they? Oh, craft beers.
As much as I enjoy the music, I'm not connecting to it as much. So to answer your question, I think knowing the song and knowing that I have a history with it, and now I'm kind of reframing it maybe as I'm hearing it today. Maybe that's why it's affecting me more than exactly like I I won't say a carbon copy, but a similar band at this time, younger, fresher, not connecting with me, even though maybe they're singing about the same exact themes and same ideas. Like you're saying, I get your point. Knowing where I am and where this band is, these dumb kids singing about this, maybe I just don't take it as sincerely as I do this band, who were my age at this, at the time they recorded, at the time I heard it. Am I making a point? Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. And I think it's, at least in my mind, it's illustrating one of the dangers that I try to avoid too, which is ageism.
Sure.
Which is this idea, I think we all do it, where it's kind of like, well, music just isn't the same anymore. Well, the music I listen to, but now it's this. Movies just don't work like how I knew movies. This isn't my Star Wars movie. That mentality, which I've had, by the way, it's just blind. And it's a mentality that can't survive. It's a mentality that the moment you say that you've outdated yourself, you're saying, I can't experience anything new. Because of course, I'm never going to go to a therapist who's half my age. I don't want to talk to them, but I'm not going to look at them and say they can't be a therapist. I'm not going to say they can't have value. I can't relate to it because I have an age issue, and it's true. And I think music works the same. And I think there was a period where I was judgmental of new music. But I mean, I assume there were people who were our age now when Green Day came out who thought they were just ripping off the Sex Pistols or ripping off whatever came before them. And that's not giving credit to the fact that what they're doing in writing the music, they probably did listen to the Sex Pistols. It's apparent Green Day listened to the Sex Pistols, but they were writing as we're relating to their experience. And if we discredit the artist and if we discredit the experience, then we're discrediting everyone who's not us, who hasn't had our experience. Because there are similarities, as you're pointing out. You have this fiddler, you have shared experiences. You're not going to relate to them because they also have different aspects of being the different ages. They're not going to relate to you, but you do have a shared experience. So when they create the art with that, you're able to listen to it and enjoy it. Maybe not connect, maybe connect, but you're not judging it. Which that's so much of what I think nostalgia unfortunately is judging where things are at and forgetting that something has always predated this and none of us are the height of art. We're relating to something. And I think this particular Green Day album just happens to have a lot that we can relate to and tether through. And maybe we should move on to the next track. Is that right? That's what would be my guess. I used to flip the CD here and then I couldn't hear a thing. Track 8 is a song called She, and it is a good segue, by the way. It's a great song to flip to. She kind of feels like how you build a mixtape. This is a good starter. And I feel like this is almost a ballad, maybe. Or at least at the time, I probably thought it was a ballad.
Well, it's definitely, compared to all the songs that have come before it, a little more subdued musically. This is still, guitar, rock, heavy, but just a little more mid-tempo, I guess.
Do you like it?
Yeah, I've always enjoyed it.
I have too. This was one I used to listen to a lot, actually.
Yeah, and again, learning more about the lyrics this listen than I did ever before.
Oh,
no. No. I'm actually surprised it hasn't kind of resurfaced a little bit because it is about a woman finding her voice and breaking free of the path that was made for her by others. And really? That's really, that's happening a lot these days. That's a big topic, and it surprises me that more folks aren't kind of coming back to the song. But again, it's 25 years old, so who's listening to She, track 8 off of Green Day's third album?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know how people, because I feel like I would, when I got into music that was 25 years old or 20 years old or whatever at the time, I guess I heard songs on the radio, I would get greatest hits, but you would still pick up albums. Green Day has survived. Green Day has a new following. Green Day, and then maybe this is where we talk about it, Green Day is a different band than they were back then. But there must be people who would reach back and find this, and that's interesting. I wonder if it has been discovered by people. We're not going to hear it if it has been, but maybe it has been rediscovered for what seems like progressive for the time.
Yeah.
subject matter. Right after it is track 9 is Sassafras Roots.
Yes, sir.
This was another one of my favorite favorite songs.
This is my favorite track on the album.
Sassafras Roots is. It's almost a ballad too, actually.
It's a love song. It's completely a love song. And I think this is one reason why it was my favorite song on the album is because this was the Harry Connick Jr. version of me kind of getting a little edgier with this. This is Harry Connick punk right here. Just a love song to somebody, just talking about wasting time. You're not doing anything. I'm not doing anything. Why don't we just hang out around not doing anything together? And it's simple, and it's what I related to. That's what I related to more than breaking down and not knowing, creeping myself out. I related more to I'm just lazy.
I don't think it's lazy.
No, I don't think it's lazy.
I don't think it's lazy. I think this song is very important. I think what you're getting at is very important for what that point of the 90s, or at least college, meant. It sounds like to both of us. This song is, and I was saying it's romantic, it's also just what hanging out with someone in college felt like. That wasting your time aspect. And, it's a clever little waste your time. Like, that's romantic, but just that idea, of just being with someone and avoiding everything that you were supposed to do. Basically, this sitting around, kind of what we're doing on these microphones right now, that no one may end up listening to. Just this, it's like there are so many things you could be doing, but this is what I'm doing, and I'm doing it with you, with someone. Be it a romantic song, the Harry Connick Jr. angle, or just be it that idea of this was being 20-something, or late teens, 20-something, and not lazy. I think it's swatted down as being lazy because it's a waste of money, maybe. But this idea of wasting time, everything is a waste of time, as we're finding out. And this one of doing it with someone, there's a connection there. Yeah, this song is deeply romantic and deeply sweet. I'm happy to hear it's your favorite song. Well, did this show up on a lot of mixtapes that you made?
Yeah, I would imagine it did. I don't have a count, but yes.
You don't keep track of that.
It's also like it's the bounciest song. It's the happiest sounding song. You know what I mean? Like all the songs we've talked about being energetic, this one actually to me has a happy bass line to it. It is the most danceable song. Like instead of thrashing, which was also fun to do, you could actually dance to this one. I feel.
See, I thought everything was just about jumping up and down on this album. What does the title mean?
I'm not exactly sure, but I did read, as we both did, the Wikipedia page, and I guess he wrote it about his girlfriend at the time, and I think she was from Brazil or somewhere foreign to America, and I don't know if maybe Sassafras is a specific reference to something in her culture because those are her roots. I don't know. I'm just pulling at straws.
Well, I mean, pulling at roots. Pulling teeth. Make it more of a ballad if he was singing to someone. Yeah, no, this song is great. This is a song that has been in my head for 25 years off and on. This comes back and forth, back and forth.
Talk about a song being in your head.
Is that a segue?
That's a segue.
I was about to do the same
Track
one.
10.
Mm-hmm. What's that one called?
When I Come Around. That was terrible. I'm sorry. That wasn't British. That wasn't British enough.
I was just writing a check to Polygram or whoever owns this, but yes, When I Come Around, this one actually might have been my favorite song.
Oh yeah,
I think it was for a while. Yeah, because this song, and now too, you're different reasons, but this one comes back a lot to me. This felt like how I was spending time. This song, similar to Good by Better Than Ezra for some reason, which whenever I hear that, I always think about trying to find a parking space at the mall. But this song, this was that feeling of sort of that weird, again, being in college, being in Boston, where we didn't have a campus, it was just buildings up and down the street, tying in with convenience stores and bookstores and all night shops or whatever. This song was just that weird sort of prowling around the streets thing of going from store to store at night, walking around, the sun going down, moving around, Newberry Comics, Tower Records, the convenience store, then getting back to the dorms and just doing the same thing. Going from room to room, knocking, seeing who's up, going downstairs, out with them, back with them. I guess just to avoid, responsibility. I don't avoid work assignments, but just to be looking for someone. And I don't know if this is what the song is about, but it just feels like that wandering. And I did that well past college. I did that probably through the early part of this current century in my 30s. Then my legs went. Now I just like to sit. But it's just, again, I don't know, and I'll ask you in a minute what it's about. But to me, this song just feels like that and encapsulates that wandering about aimlessly and not hopelessly, but just wanting to find people that I couldn't do in my hometown. I didn't do that in my hometown. I didn't do that before getting to college. So having done it for a year at that point and having this song hit, this is another one like Basket Case where I'm like, how did they know I did this?
Yeah.
How did they know this is what it feels like? How did they write this? Is that what the song's about?
I think so to a bit of an extent. It's more of a specific, my interpretation. It's more of a specific song from a man to his girlfriend or maybe ex-girlfriend, and basically it's like he's singing to her, "You do what you need to do. I'm always going to be here when I come around. If we want to get together, we can. If you don't, we don't," kind of thing. But when I did take a look at a couple of videos, just to kind of remind myself of the videos, and in this is the one where they basically are just walking around. And when I watched it, I immediately thought of you and I and maybe Joe Francasio, Chris Nassini. There would be times where
this week on Names You Don't Know.
Yes, we have former guests of the show.
Chris Nassini was.
Yeah.
That's true.
There were times we would just like walk over to Burger King down past. Do you remember this?
The daring lifestyle.
Yeah, no, but it was just.
I remember.
We would just walk around. We
King.
would just walk around, and that's what they're doing in that video. We would just walk, and just the look of them is like kind of aimlessly, maybe not even talking to each other, but just walking to see who they're going to bump into, to see who we would bump into, and you can't do anything and interact with anyone unless you're moving around and checking things out and yeah, we totally did that, and I get exactly what you're saying.
Yeah, and I still like it. This still feels relevant. A little less so the last couple of years, I guess. But no, I love this song. Track 11, Coming Clean. Great first lyric, the 17 and strung out on confusion, but I don't think I ever really listened to this one. I think I usually would have stopped around When I Come Around. Mm. And this one, I don't know, this one feels a little forced to me as well. Yeah. Which again, that's not a huge deal. There's 15 tracks, but I don't relate to the lyrics. I can't make out the lyrics that much, but I didn't really remember this song.
Again, for me, it was the music. I like the music of this song. I like how it's got a different kind of opening than the rest of the songs, because it's sort of like drawn out a little. But yeah, I didn't really like the back half of this, like you're saying, after When I Come Around, I probably heard less than everything else.
And it's not that they're bad. I just feel like it's one of those things where it's like, I guess now because of CDs, you want as much as you can get because you can skip around. But to listen to it as a full album, even though I guess it's like a 40-minute album. It's a shorter album. I'm exhausted by this point. Take a song or two out. I don't think we need this.
And I mean, the songs as they're pretty similar. Like you were saying, they have the same DNA. You've got guitar, bass, drums on each track. Nothing else really. I think there's an acoustic guitar coming up next or soon.
Soon, but not yet.
But otherwise, it's like every song is pretty similar. In fact, not being able to hear it right now, there are times where I'm looking at these lyrics and I'm like, I can't quite get the melody of what this song is, because they're just the kind of blend together, like you were saying, sometimes deliberately, but then other times it's like, what was it? Wait, this is the guitar heavy one? No, yeah. it is the guitar hit.
To their credit, they do all at least have a lyric that sticks out. There
Right.
is still something there. Like the next song, the track 12, EMENIUS Sleeps. Is that what it's called?
I think so. I've never tried to say it out loud. EMENIUS Sleepes.
So it's supposed to be like the Wile E. Coyote titles when they freeze.
Yeah, I think it's like a Latin, supposed to be a Latin naming type of thing.
It's got the think I'm sick and I want to go home line, which I remember, and it's like that should be your last track. Then go from When I Come Around to this, because that's kind of a finale. I mean, I have to say, it didn't hold my attention today when this song came on. And I know it's not very long. I suddenly realized I was looking at something on my phone, without even thinking. I was just like, I zoned out. I never listened to it really when I had the album, although I guess I remember that one lyric because it seemed familiar. But yeah, this song, you could have just cut to this, make it a 12-track album. And this could have been the last track because it wraps things up pretty quickly. Do you like it? Do you like this song?
Yeah, I don't mind it.
I'm asking that a lot. Sorry.
Yeah.
You don't mind it?
No, like I said, every track made it onto my iTunes. So there's really not a track on here that I don't like.
What about track 13 In the End?
I like it. I honestly can't tell you what it sounds like.
If it's an afterthought, yeah.
I'm trying to read the lyrics and figure it out. I've got it written down here.
I don't remember listening to it at 19.
No, well, yeah, I can't tell you how it sounds. I hate that. But I did write down. I really liked it though when I listened to it, and I like too that it sort of tags back to When I Come Around, because it's another relationship song, basically about whatever. Like she's off doing something else. Maybe you'll come back to me, but in the end, I realized I don't really like you. And there's actually a line in here about if you come around. What does he say?
Something circular.
So he goes, so I hope I won't be there in the end if you come around. Hey, it just came back to me.
Oh, yeah, it's not bad. I vaguely remember
I like that song.
Your performance was great, by the way, but the song's not bad.
So basically now it's like she's going to come around. So he was singing before, when I come around, maybe we can hook up. And now in this song he's saying, if you come around, I hope I'm not there because I've realized I don't like you.
That's nice and artistic. I hadn't had that experience at 19, having not dated anyone, so I didn't have that abusive dominant position. So maybe that's why that didn't stick with me as well. Right after that, F.O.D. F.O.D.
Yes.
What does that stand for?
That stands for fuck off and die.
Really?
And that's what I've been told. And that is a lyric in the song. So I tend to believe it.
Okay. This is a dud of a song. It's just, and the album's ended twice already. Now there's this.
Yeah. Well, for me, I like this song.
Not how I want to hear it. You do.
For its slow, the acoustic opening. And then it kicks. I like that moment where it kicks into the full band. So it goes from acoustic and then it goes da-na-na-na with the full band. So I like that musical aspect of it.
Were you just humming Sweet Emotion?
I don't think so, but probably.
Was that what you said? Denial.
That is, but isn't Sweet Emotion is... no, I'm not even going to... Yeah, there's an extra nana in there.
Yeah, and I feel a little bit like Vanilla Ice defending Ice Ice Baby, but you're right. They're very different. Those two are actually different songs. So you like F.O.D.
I like that musical hit. I didn't really know the lyrics. I didn't know what F.O.D. stood for until this morning. So it wasn't like a song.
Someone shouted it to you outside of a commuter bus.
It wasn't a song that stuck with me, but I like that musical hit of the acoustic guitar and then banging in with the drums and guitar and bass and the whole band.
I guess, okay, all I remember, and I streamed this album on Google Play, which has a shitty app, but is a fine service. So they didn't do this, but I do remember that the album, and I think this was because they were still making cassettes, this on the album had a lot of dead space after it before going into the last song.
Yeah, the hidden track.
The All By Myself, track 15.
Yeah.
And it's like, I get it when you had a record or a cassette and you kind of had to validate the length of it. It's weird when that was on CDs. Like Nirvana did it, other people did it, where it's like
there are a lot of hidden tracks from.
You have all this dead space before it comes up, and it's just odd on a CD, I guess. But this song, All by Myself, this song annoyed the shit out of me.
Yeah, I thought it was comical at the time.
They think they're so adorable. They're not, by the way, but they think they're so adorable here. His voice, that's not his voice, isn't it? Is that one of the other members?
Yeah, that's the drummer. That's Trey Cool.
He should not sing like that. It's just, this felt like all the dumb follow-up Ugly Kid Joes and all those. Oh, which actually predates this album. What am I saying? Follow-up. But this just felt like a dumb radio.
Offspring, maybe?
Well, I don't know. Offspring. Live.
It's not anything like Live.
Live. No, but I'm this was the one time where I feel like they thought they were making a joke. I don't even know if they are, but I'm just like, it's a song about masturbation, right? And
stalking, I thought, yeah.
Well, yeah.
Maybe.
Okay. I can see that. A
little
I'm not just waving that off, but this is the one that felt like they thought they had a joke and you're going to laugh at this. And I did not.
I feel like it's sort of probably something they threw together in the studio, shitting around, just goofing off. And it turned out well enough that they thought, again, just throw it on as a little hidden track, a little something extra for fun, for the fans.
Yeah, it's not even that loud. It's just bad. But that doesn't discourage me. I mean, this Dookie, that we're at the end of it now, the Dookie is a pretty phenomenal album.
It really is.
And I didn't realize how impactful an album till I sat down to really think about it today before we started recording. That how to me personally.
Yeah, I don't think of this album when I think of you. I don't think of this album when I think of us, because we lived together for so long. It's not something that we ever shared necessarily. It's not like you and I ever really were talking about Green Day.
But you kept up with them. You kept up with them till I guess their first, because they did fade. I always forget that. They fell off right for a couple years and came back with American Idiot, and now they're praised as a rock band, really. And they're not a punk band.
They have a musical.
But these are just terms.
A Broadway musical.
Which is fine. I'm not trashing that.
Right.
But they're different. I don't like that album.
They're different.
They're different, and that's great. They don't have to identify by that title anymore. They're adults. People grow. This album, I got it. I regained an appreciation listening to it today.
Right. Yep.
And then I just gained another appreciation for it just talking to you about it tonight, that it could do that any album can, but that this, as you said, 25-year-old album
25
could become relevant to you.
Again. Yeah.
Again and differently.
Yeah. It's sort of, it's no longer stuck in time. It's everywhere now for me.
Just like Space Hog.
Exactly like Space Hog.
And we'll be talking nothing but Space Hog for the rest of the year. No, that's not true. But we will be talking about something in 2 weeks. We'll be back in 2 weeks. Did you have anything else you wanted to add about Green Day?
I think I've said enough on this episode, Tim.
I think you said a lot. And I think I got something out of that. But yes, why don't we, before we bring up Space Hog a third time, thank you for listening. Thank you for listening today to 20th Century Pop. Visit 20popcast.com if you're online. That's our main website. You'll always find the most recent episode up there streaming so you can hear it. You also find links to all of our past episodes. This is our 93rd episode, so there's a lot to choose from. I would invite you to listen to some of those, share them with some people. If you do like the show, if you want to be updated every time a new episode drops, which right now is about every other week, you can subscribe to us at that same website. You'll find links to subscribe to us on Apple Podcasts, on Stitcher, Google Play, other pod-catching devices. You can also follow us on Twitter at Subcultist. Follow us on Instagram at 20. I'm fucking this up. Social media, you can follow us at 20popcast at both Twitter and Instagram. You probably don't want to after that, because if it reads the way I speak, it's a mess. But you can also like us on Facebook.
You can follow me personally at RH Canning on Twitter. And I always say this, what do you think of the album Dookie? Which is weird that I say that on all of our episodes, and it's finally on our 93rd, it actually makes sense. But what do you think of Dookie and Green Day, and do you still listen to them? Let us know.
Space Hog.
I love it when a band has a song named after themselves. Space Hog has a Space Hog.
Space Hog?
Yeah.
Oh, because I know the Modern Lovers. I just love it.
Green Day has a song called Green Day on one of those earlier albums that I'm curious to hear what Green Day sounds like by the band Green Day.
Yeah, I don't like that. I don't like it when a band references themselves in a song. Sometimes if it's a phrase, like I guess Bad Company had to.
Apples in Stereo.
I understand it. Oh, I hate that band.
I love that band.
Aerosmith does it in a couple songs, and they refer them. This is in the, I don't know if it's the 80s or 90s. So they're in their late 30s, early 40s. Steven Tyler refers to themselves as the boys in Aerosmith. I hate it when people refer themselves as the boys, like that, like they're playing volleyball. The Kenny Loggins, shirtless, with the star of Willow, and also that doctor who has cancer on ER, and maybe Meg Ryan.